the ubiquity of those stupid hoverboards drives me bananas because they are not in any way, for any definition of the word, hovering.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bad Voltage. I assume you're listening in the morning, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you wake up to this?
This should be the first thing.
The first thing you do, you turn it on. You get up in the morning, you hop in the shower, you take a dump, and you listen to some Bad Voltage. This is episode 50 freaking
in the shower?
6.
What?
I'm not saying you dump in the shower, but you can listen to the show in the shower.
You listen in the shower. You need a little kind of speaker thing which is waterproof.
Yeah,
and then
an auspicious start to the penultimate version of Bad Voltage for the year.
So I don't know what episode number it was, but Stuart actually reviewed a thing in the shower where you could listen to this show.
Yeah.
Anyway, this
we should do like
episode,
Bad Voltage co-branded versions of it that we can sell to people.
That actually is a fantastic idea.
This is a great start to the show, by the way.
You know, Jono, it would be a fantastic start if you'd shut your pie hole and let Jeremy tell us what we're talking about today.
Oh, boy. One thing we're going to talk about today is recently Mozilla has announced that they are going to pivot FirefoxOS or potentially stop. It depends who you ask. And, Jolla is not bankrupt quite, but are looking for some funding before the new year ends. And so it seems like some of the lesser-known mobile OSs based on Linux are getting into a little bit of trouble at the end of this year, and we are going to explore that.
Moving on from needing $10 million to keep your company alive, and move on to people who need 10, 100,000 million, billion, trillion dollars to cover the moon in solar panels and then beam the energy back to Earth.
Oh, yeah.
If you think that Mr. Langridge sounds somewhat cynical about that, just wait until we talk about the 2015 year in review, where we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite moments in technology.
And then Jeremy is going to review two completely different, basically, security cameras from both Arlo and D-Link, because he is sure the apocalypse is about upon us and he would like to protect his property.
Also, it should be noted that for some reason in this show, there is an oversupply of buzzwords, and none of us really know why, because we've all been guilty of this.
This was not planned, I assure you.
So every time you hear one of these buzzwords, do something, take a shot of something, or maybe punch yourself in the face. Whatever.
Don't take a shot of something, because the amount of buzzwords that were flying around will end up killing people.
Oh, a shot
so,
of...
don't do
I misheard you entirely. I thought you said take a shot at something, which seems harsh.
That would be... that should not be encouraged. So anyway, good show, right?
So before I start off the show properly, I would like to ask, how was it started off last show? Because I unfortunately had jury duty, and I barely actually missed making it back here to record with you guys. And I did not actually listen to the show, so how was the end of the intro? I'm curious.
First off, boy, we missed you. We missed you. We missed you last time, man. Right. We missed you hardcore. Something fierce. However,
what was the title of the show? Best episode ever?
I think so. It was. We started it off
massively
masterfully.
Uninformed.
How would you phrase it, Stuart? Would you say we started the show in a masterful way?
I would say that our Jeremy Garcia imitation was almost indistinguishable from the real article.
Yeah, just amazing.
That is when you see those when you see those school movies and the teacher is talking to the class and then they go out the room for 30 seconds and everyone just immediately starts throwing paper balls at each other. That's what the last episode was like. Jeremy wasn't here to bring, facts and details into the mix. And it was just madness run amok. So
I will have to listen to that. But before I do, and now, Bad Voltage. So I know we've talked a bit about some alternative lesser known, maybe to the mainstream, Linux-based mobile operating systems in the past. And there's been some recent news about some of the more popular alternatives recently since the last couple of shows. So I thought we could talk about it again.
Just amazing news. I just want to brace everyone for the heartwarming nature of the stuff we're about to talk about, because we're talking about success and beauty and how companies and open source projects just always succeed. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure everyone was sitting down.
It
for
is
the
uplifting,
happiness.
so you do have to make sure everyone's prepared. So the show notes actually say Mozilla stopped developing FirefoxOS and Jolla is bankrupt. And I guess that's not exactly true, because Mozilla now is saying that they're not going to stop developing FirefoxOS, but they are going to pivot it into an Internet of Things connected devices operating system, which I'm sure will succeed just as well. And Jolla is not technically bankrupt. They are trying to financially restructure and only need $10 million in the month of December, which is well over halfway done. So I'm sure the odds in the next 12 days of them getting $10 million is probably pretty good. So
I have to say, for erecting the volcano of unadulterated bullshit here, 10 million seems like a cheap price to me. It takes me at least 20 million to come up with such lies. It's like living through an election campaign. It's terrible.
Well, you do know the week in between Christmas and New Year's is one of the best weeks to raise money for sure, because everyone in the financial industry is in the office, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't know about you guys.
Loads of spare money.
I'm kind of feeling nostalgic for Mamo, and I don't know. I had what was it? The 770 is the one that I had. They gave them to us at Linux World New York. I think it was a great device, way ahead of its time.
It was
a fantastic product.
The 810, right? The N900, those were amazing devices. I love those
actual
suckers.
amazing device. The N9, the Nokia N9
was a great device. Yeah. Absolutely great device.
Pound for pound, the best phone I've ever owned.
Well,
way up.
I have to say though, they were. Here's the rub. I think is that they were great. You get one of those devices, you open it up, you look at it, and you're like, wow, this is so cool, and it's running open source, and blah 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 blah. And you look at the UI, particularly with the N9, like the build quality and the user interface was so sleek. And then you never touch it again.
Disagree.
I thought it was a great phone in general.
I still
always went back to my normal phone.
2 Nokia N810s and the original N900 running, I think it was Mamo 5, which is a Debian-based desktop running Hilden, which is kind of like that mobile version of from back then. And for the hardware it's running on, which by today's standards is crazy underpowered, but it runs fast. It runs a ton of software. I can install complete Linux desktops on there. I have on my N900, I have a complete XFCE desktop with LibreOffice. I think it's 4. something or other, Inkscape, GIMP, all sorts of things. And GIMP takes
LibreOffice on an N900.
Yes. And it's completely functional. Why wouldn't you want that? I've used that so many times. It is unbelievably useful. It is totally useful. I don't know what weird finger gestures Jono Bacon just made at me. I wish this was a video show, because I want that to be
that you had
public.
I didn't realize you had hands and fingers that were the size of Ken from Ken and
Okay. So just because a device is tiny, that doesn't mean you never run something like a desktop application on it. That just means that you don't whip it out when you're driving to thumb input things.
It means exactly that. Right? Attempting to run full-on LibreOffice on some pathetic tiny little screen is like saying someone, here's the Encyclopedia Britannica, and they're making them read it through a fucking letterbox. It's stupid.
Well, here you go. I'm out and about. I'm on the go. I'm at an airport or something, and I need to do a couple of edits for an article. I can whip that out of my pocket, do a couple of edits, merge a couple of comments in from my editor, email it back to them, SSH into my box at home, make sure all my files are updated, all my images projects are up. I've done that so many times with art files and everything.
But when you think to yourself, I need to write the article, you then have to account for pressing the button that loads LibreOffice, waiting 45 minutes for it to start, and then you can start writing.
You're totally right. It took like about a minute and a half.
Because it's basically running on a Z80.
Yeah, it took about a minute and a half to launch it, but it was so amazingly handy. And we have tablets now. But anyway, this is a digression.
Get back into the Jolla Sailfish FirefoxOS. discussion.
We need to have an entire episode where I can argue with you guys about this, because I am so totally right.
We should keep that for a segment for a future show, I think.
Brian's World of Stupid. Okay, we'll do that. We'll get back to that later.
We need to make this a regular segment.
The real question at hand here for this particular segment, I think, is do we think, realistically, anyone can succeed here? Because from my perspective, to answer that question, it's going to be nearly impossible, right? The truth is, and not enough people talk about this in the open source world, I think, is that especially in mobile right now, there's just not a lot of money to be made. If your name isn't Apple, or whoever ends up becoming the Apple of China, whether it be Xiaomi or Huawei, probably up in the air between those two, it's going to be difficult. Even Samsung is having a ton of trouble right now actually making money. They're making revenue, but they're not making profit.
And nobody uses Canonical's phones. Nobody.
Right, HTC is a great example. I genuinely believe the HTC One M9 was the best mobile device of 2015, and they made no money on it.
Yeah.
So if they're not making money, I don't know how anyone is going to make. I don't know how Samsung comes back from it, but they have enough money to weather the storm.
It's interesting to compare and contrast it in some ways to where open source has been. Has impacted other industries. I'm trying to avoid the word disruptive.
Continue to avoid it. Because it marks you as a California tosspot, just saying.
Who is it? Was it Uak who said that if you basically replace the word disruptive with fuck up?
Exactly. Anytime you see a headline or anything and someone says disrupt, replace it with fuck up, and it does not change the meaning whatsoever. Never use the word.
Anyway, if you look though at the cloud, I mean, open source has had a big impact in making the cloud market more diverse, right? But then, back in the early days of like OpenStack and Eucalyptus and things like that. But what's interesting is that we haven't seen that kind of disruption on the mobile side of things, and I guess part of the reason for that is because the cloud world is by definition primarily stocked with companies, and companies can make big changes and big decisions.
The cloud thing, we're not seeing disruption from the people who've been in the game for 30 or 40 years, but we've seen massive disruption from the mobile people who've been in the game for 30 or 40 years, because every one of them is dead. The whole smartphone market is less than 10 years old.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that if you look at back in the earlier days of the cloud, basically Amazon was ruling the roost. And then what happened was OpenStack. And OpenStack has basically diversified the whole cloud world.
Yeah.
That's right. That's Android. And what to Apple though?
But
right, I was going to say Android is open source.
Well,
it is.
The fact that Cyanogen exists, to me, solidifies the fact that Android is open source. Android has some closed source components, but Android as a whole is open source.
But when we talk about FirefoxOS and Jolla and Ubuntu Phone, I think we think of it differently to Android, right? Android is open source.
That's just because people don't like Google in the open source community, though. It's not really a valid thing to think, I don't think.
I think it's definitely open source. It's just I think it doesn't have the same kind of community spirit that a lot of these other projects has.
Right. Android itself, the operating system, is not participatory. Right,
no, wait.
Wait. Hang on.
Okay. You go, Stuart. You go.
I agree you could probably argue that point, but if you looked at Android and said, okay, basically what happens is Google build it and they throw it over the wall and then people can do stuff with it, you wouldn't be far wrong. But there is a massive community, a huge community, the world's biggest software community probably, building stuff on Android. What need is there to get involved with fiddling about how the launcher works?
And not only that, but two very large open source projects are completely based on Android.
Yeah.
And there's open source communities around both of those.
What I'm saying is, I guess, the more I think about it, is less about open source versus proprietary software. It's more about a project being able to unseat a large dominant player.
No, I see where you're going.
OpenStack was able to diversify the cloud world, and we haven't seen that happen in the mobile world. And I'm just curious about what that might be.
I get what you're saying, Jono. I get what you're saying. I mean, the current big players in the Linux-powered smartphone operating system race aren't really coming at it from the point of view of let's build this big community thing. I mean, Jolla, FirefoxOS, Ubuntu Touch, they're not really what we would consider to be kind of traditional open sourcey community things. They're pretty lockboxy, driven from a single mindset by a particular company or organization projects, just like, Android or anything else. However, and to the point Jeremy was making earlier, the old Memo days, that was disruptive. That was interesting. That was extraordinarily, with a couple of exceptions that annoyed everyone, very community driven. And at this point, it's even still maintained by the community. The reason that ended up failing wasn't because the market didn't want it. It was because Nokia just got retarded in their brain. And we're not talking about... I think
part of it is that the market didn't want it. They were a little bit too far ahead of the curve, I think.
They were ahead of the curve. You can't just blame it on Nokia, because if 100 million people had walked in the door and offered to buy an N770, Nokia would not have killed the project.
Right. But based on that, but Nokia saw far more success with that than, say, Ubuntu Touch, I think, is ever going to see. I mean, it's not seeing success right now. It's probably not going to, right? So I mean, we're looking at, and Jolla. I mean, Yolla's barely holding on to dear life right now. And from my point of view, I kind of agree with what Jono was saying. A lot of the open source things like Android, like Ubuntu Touch, just don't feel very... I hate to use this word, but community-y. And I wish they did. And I feel like there have been projects like Mare and Memo in the past that have felt that way, that have been driven by multiple
Sailfish feel like that to you?
I think Sailfish could, but nobody has cared enough to turn it into something. You know what I mean? There's just not a big community there to get things going. People aren't that excited about it. Honestly, I don't see a lot of the technical reasons for it existing.
The reason why these, in my mind, the reason why these mobile operating systems haven't succeeded is pretty clear. Is that today your phone is not just something that you use software on, it's part of your identity, it's part of your social group, right? So today, if you look at the typical apps that people are going to use, it's going to be WhatsApp, and it's going to be Uber, and all these different apps that people are using. So it serves a functionality thing, which I think most of the open source OSs can probably offer the basics. Like, you can send email, you can do some navigation, you can browse the web, all that kind of stuff. But I think the reason why these phones are not working is because people can't get the apps. I mean, I'll count myself as an example here. I use an Android phone. I spent a year running the Ubuntu phone in the spirit of supporting the project and dog food in it. And frankly, it was a pain because a lot of the things a lot of the things that I needed to do, I couldn't do. But I stuck in there because I was part of the project. And, you see life through a different lens when you're actually part of the same thing, right? Yeah. But as somebody who is now not part of the project, I wouldn't even consider running an Ubuntu phone full time.
Of course not, you're human.
There are just, and that's no slight against Ubuntu. It's a slight against the fact that the ecosystem.
No, that's a total slight against Ubuntu. Because hang on. What just to finish off the point is that you could argue that Canonical could have done a better job engaging with those app companies to make those apps happen, because traditionally what happens is the company, like Microsoft did this, will pay those app providers a lot of money to do that, and Canonical have refused to do that. So arguably that is a slight against Canonical. But I think the main reason is because the ecosystem today is the same it was 15 years ago when it came to PCs. It was like,
but that's clearly not the only reason, right? Because Microsoft dumped an absurd amount of money into getting the top apps running. And I actually tried to look this up before the show. How much money has Microsoft dumped into Windows Mobile Phone? And it's very difficult to get an exact number, but it's in the tens of billions at an absolute minimum.
Sure.
So the fact that they've been able to spend, and we're not talking about some company that no one in the mainstream's ever heard of. We're talking about Microsoft, who almost everyone has on their desktop. The fact that they're at 2.2% market penetration, 10 years and 30, 40, $80 billion in is indicative of how difficult it is.
But I'd say that
to think that Ubuntu is going to come in and be able to compete, I don't even understand the mentality.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I think we can't treat we can't compare these companies equally, right? The driving forces against Microsoft being successful will be different to the driving forces against Ubuntu being successful.
I don't think we are comparing them equally. Oh, I don't think any of us.
I think we are.
I'm not. I'm looking at it from the point of view: are they going to stay in business and make a piece of software or not? Jolla, Canonical, I don't know that they are. So, I mean, that's a different thing.
I think part of the reason why Microsoft haven't been successful, frankly, is because I think people don't want to buy. A lot of people don't want to buy Microsoft stuff. Because Microsoft, I think, has got a sour taste in the mind of lots of tech consumers. I don't think Canonical and Ubuntu has that pre-existing reputation. So on one hand, Microsoft have that going against them. On the other hand, they have a lot of money to invest into it. So I think, Jeremy, your point's absolutely reasonable, the fact that they've invested a ton of money in it and they haven't been successful. But I think part of the reason for that is because people just don't want to buy Microsoft stuff.
I'm no Microsoft apologist, but I got to say, that's bullcrap. They have one of the most successful game consoles. They have the most successful desktop operating system.
Yeah, but
they have some of the most successful software on the planet. You can probably, if you tally up like the top 20 most used pieces of software, Microsoft's going to have at least 5 of them. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, there is no other company that is more used software-wise than them, and at least in the desktop.
The interesting point you make there is about the Xbox, because for the other stuff, you could make the case that a lot of the reason that people are using Microsoft desktop software is basically from inertia, right? They built up such dominance that everyone's kind of stuck with it now. But the Xbox, they created out of nothing, and it's now
nothing but a giant pile of cash.
Okay. They created out of a pile of cash the size of Bolivia, don't get me wrong. And I'm not sure it makes them that much money, because they still have to sell the consoles at a loss and so on, but it proves that you can go from nothing to equivalent big player status in a market, and Microsoft can do that. And people are not walking away and buying Sony PlayStations because they don't trust Microsoft.
Right.
No, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
If I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy a phone right now, and if I'm just playing devil's advocate here, and I look at, okay, I don't want to buy an iPhone. Do I want to buy something that's kind of trying to clone an iPhone in kind of a weird, unsuccessful way? Like the Jolla phones? Like the Ubuntu powered phones? I mean, that's kind of what they feel like. And so now Android did that in a certain way, but they did it in a much better way, and they did it earlier, and they got into the market at a better time.
That doesn't feel like the case to me at all, but okay, why?
I would disagree with
how you feel.
I would disagree with that about. Well, I would disagree with that about Ubuntu. I think that's
true, because Ubuntu hasn't really shipped anything usable yet, so I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, Ubuntu shipped phones, but I think to suggest that it's trying to clone an existing OS is unfair. I think Ubuntu is doing something genuinely different. The issue is that people don't seem to want it.
Well,
I think FirefoxOS was also doing something genuinely different. They weren't.
Yeah. I guess you're right. You're right. I'm oversimplifying it, to be sure. I know that, but looking at these companies, I want them all to succeed, and I think all 4 of us want Jolla and Mozilla and Canonical to succeed with this. And I think it's gotten to the point where we've gotten so cynical because they've all screwed up in such clearly obvious ways that many of us and a lot of the larger open source community has been yelling about since the very inception of all these projects, and now they're failing because of those very problems. It's annoying that that's happening, because I want to see them succeed.
That's not reasonable. You've heard a lot of people yell at them, but the yell wasn't anything actionable. It was, don't get into the phone market, you'll be shit at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay. I yelled about very specific things, and they're failing because of those things. And I reading other articles
because they didn't do Brian's list.
But I think if you look at Firefox, it's a good example, right? What made Firefox successful? They took a market where there was huge potential and a stagnant main player
Yeah.
And people were desperate for something good there, and they filled a need. They did it very well, and people loved it, right? Back in the day, people loved Firefox. If you remember back to like that New York Times thing where you could pay to be in the ad, people loved it. What Firefox OS appeared at a time when there were huge potential, obviously mobile, but there was two giant tech companies doing arguably a very good job at innovating, and every version of Android is better. Totally. Every version of iOS I hear is better. I haven't used it in a while. People seem to like it. So they seem to have forgot what made Firefox popular and went in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah. I think that's a really fair assessment, because the thing is and going back to your point, Brian, about these companies screwing up, I don't think it's that simple. I think genuinely, if you look at, I don't know, I know the inner workings of Canonical, I don't know the inner workings of Mozilla, I don't know the inner workings of Jolla, but
me neither.
I think each of these companies has done the level best that they can with the resources that they've got available to take on these markets. It's just really hard. I think you can make all of the very best decisions within the capacity of what you've got and still be unsuccessful. And that's, I think, what's happened here. I don't think I think there are some things that, so for example, if I was running Canonical and I was going to go after the mobile market, I would have paid companies to build the apps. I would have gone out and tried to pay Skype to build an app for Ubuntu. I think that was a mistake that Canonical made, is expecting that these companies are just going to, be enamored by the Ubuntu brand and want to move over. That to me was a silly thing to do.
Or
I think engineering-wise,
you could have approached it from a collaborative point of view, and instead of developing your brand new thing, built something that was using, say, pre-existing desktops, modified a little bit for the mobile environment, and been able to. But it's been proven to work in the past, and ship things like Skype and whatnot on it out of the box, and it may not have been a beautiful mobile experience, but it would have been functional. And you would have filled the gap until someone built a thumb-based version of it, and you would have shown the companies that it would have worked.
Because if you name the list of apps that people say, I want this and it's not available on this phone, almost all of them are not available on the Linux desktop either. There's no Facebook app. There's no app that sends notifications. Yes,
is there a Facebook app for any operating system?
There is a broken old version of Skype which doesn't do group chat, doesn't do group video.
But it would fill a gap.
What gap would it fill? Fill a gap that no one wants, and there's no WhatsApp app.
And Brian, it's not just about getting it running.
So, like, Skype on most mobile devices is less powerful than Skype on the desktop Linux. So,
it's not just about getting it. It's not just about getting it running. The issue is not getting something running. The issue is support.
Honestly, because because Canonical, Jolla, etc. still don't have something running. That's the problem. They haven't been able to ship something that people want, and this is what you guys keep saying too.
Yeah, but there is technical ways of making, like, there is nothing stopping Canonical making the Android version of Skype run on the Ubuntu phone.
Right.
That's technically, in fact, we had a demo of that running a long time ago.
I know, and and Canonical promised that a long time ago and never delivered. It's just a constant flood of not delivering.
The reason why that wasn't going to be delivered is because the issue here is that it's not about just getting it running. Getting that running is easy. The hard thing is getting it running in a way that can be supported. Because what's going to happen is if Ubuntu gets a T-Mobile phone, T-Mobile gets an Ubuntu phone and they start selling it, and then something goes wrong, they need their support departments to be able to operate around that. If you ship Skype on there, we could ship Skype on an Ubuntu phone. It's going to piss off Skype when they get tons of support calls about their app running on somebody else's phone, which isn't certified by Skype at all. That's the reason why you don't have these apps running. At which point it comes right the way back, circle around the thing Jeremy said right at the beginning, which is there is hardly any money in being a mobile handset manufacturer, software manufacturer, whatever.
Yeah, the money's more in the stores.
At which point you say, okay, you could build something which runs Android apps and runs existing.
Hey, Stuart, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
That was my phone.
Hold on a second. We need to yell at Jono for a second. Jono, could you silence your cell phone before we start recording the show? I think that would be a nice way to go.
Sorry, that was a snafu on my side.
We are 25 minutes into this.
There's so much more to say in this segment.
There's so much more much more we could say. Let's stop for a second. I have more I could say. I'm looking at all four of your faces. I know you feel the same.
Yeah.
Let's stop for now. Let's direct people over to the forum, community.badvoltage.org. Let's kind of have a chat in here. I honestly, genuinely want to hear what people have to say about this.
So do I.
Because I am extremely curious because I want to see success.
The mobile aside, because I know we all have a ton more to say out of that, and obviously I know we're running long, but what do you think about Mozilla trying to pivot, as they said, to the Internet of Things?
That's a whole segment of me making fun of them. I wish I could. I can't do it in less than 27 minutes. I'm sorry. It's so much ridiculousness. I can't even begin to think about it.
I'd like to know what their broader vision is of the Internet of Things. I just don't know. I've never heard
the one curious thing is, to my knowledge, one of the
thing.
creators of FirefoxOS left the company to start an Internet of Things company based on FirefoxOS and gave up on it and switched.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. So that alone, it's funny to me, but
That's telling.
It seems like they're going right into another market with a bunch of very entrenched, very
I don't
with existing products.
I don't actually think they are, though. They're saying, we're pivoting FirefoxOS to be an Internet of Things thing, but I don't think that's their focus. We're starting to see loads more stuff coming from them doing privacy things, and that's the pivot they should be making.
Well, I was going to say, the one going back to what I said earlier about what made Firefox popular, I think for Mozilla to get its mojo back, they have to focus on privacy and identity management, because that's an area where is currently being ignored, and I think people are desperate for something good. But that's another whole segment in and of itself. So,
well,
there's so many segments in here.
There are a ton.
Given the fact that the Mozilla PR department listens to Bad Voltage now, I think they've got the message.
Mozilla, get it right. Define the next 10 years of technology, and then we can talk about it. End of segment.
Oh, you guys, let's stop being hard on them. They're going to make it for things now. It's cool.
Those of you who regularly listen to the show know that I've been creating an increasingly smarter home. Continuing that trend, in this show I'll review not one, but two Wi-Fi security camera offerings, the Arlo by Netgear and the Guardian DCS-2630L by D-Link. Now, to be fair, it's difficult to directly compare these cameras as they're aimed at slightly different use cases. The Guardian requires a power outlet and comes equipped with a 180-degree field of view, 1080p HD video quality, two-way audio, and local recording, but no cloud recording options. The Arlo is completely wireless and comes with a 110-degree field of view, 720p HD video quality, no audio, and no local video, but does include cloud recording options. Both cameras have motion detection, apps for Android and iOS, live viewing, and event notifications. The Arlo kit starts at $200, with each additional camera adding $150, while the Guardian will set you back $200. For the Arlo, the free 7-day recording option lets you sync up to 5 cameras, but there's also a 30-day option that costs $10 a month and lets you sync up to 10 cameras, as well as a 60-day option that costs $15 a month and lets you sync up to 15 cameras. And I should note here, the soon-to-be-released Arlo Q is much more comparable to the D-Link Guardian, and with that caveat that you're still making a local versus cloud choice for recordings, and I'll try to update this review in the future once that product actually ships. Both devices are relatively easy to set up. For the Arlo, you insert the 4 included CR123 batteries, plug in the seemingly unnecessarily large hub, download the phone app, create an account, and sync your camera. The camera must be within 200 or 300 feet of the hub. The D-Link is a similar process of plug in the camera, download the phone app, create an account, scan an included QR code, and sync your camera. The Arlo comes with a dome-shaped magnetic mount that allows maximum flexibility, while the Guardian has a solid, more traditional swivel base. With the devices both installed, let's move on to actually using them. The Arlo app's home screen and website display a nice overview of all of your connected cameras, and from either you can view multiple cameras, control all available settings, select different motion detection modes, set your schedules, and view a library of past recordings. The app's pretty intuitive and responsive, and videos load smoothly in both the app and a browser. The D-Link app defaults to a simple list of available cameras. The free app is fairly basic, but a more full-featured app can be purchased for 99 cents, although do note the paid app hasn't been updated in over a year. The app is not quite as intuitive as the Arlo app and was continually laggy for me. While the video on the D-Link is of a higher quality, it sometimes does take a while to initially load. Incredulously, the website doesn't work at all in any browser on Linux. And it's not just that you can't watch videos, nothing at all works. You can't update settings, access a list of your cameras, nothing. It requires a non-standard plugin on OS X, but I wasn't able to get that to work correctly either. It's almost 2016 and there's absolutely no reason for this. With HTML5 and other web technologies available, I consider this a major strike against the Guardian. Also a little odd is that much of the advanced functionality of the device is hidden in a little mentioned local HTTP server, which means you must find the IP address to your camera and manually type it into a browser. Now luckily that does work in Linux. While D-Link doesn't offer any public cloud recording options, they do offer multiple network video recorder options that allow you to create a kind of DIY local cloud setup, although those do come at an additional cost. The video quality on the leatherproof Arlo is high, and the field of view is well suited for most outdoor applications, which is one segment this camera is clearly aimed at. The Arlo in front of my house, for example, covers my entire yard and most of each home on either side of me. Do keep in mind that battery life is very dependent on how often your placement and motion settings will trigger recordings and notifications. Overly noisy setups may only get around 2 or 3 months, while well thought out setups should get roughly 6 months. And here's where an addition of a solar charging option would really be a welcome addition. The video quality on the Guardian is very high, and the field of view is the highest I've personally seen on any consumer security camera, and they've also managed to keep the fisheye minimal here, which is nice. It's definitely enough to easily capture the entirety of even a very large indoor space. The night vision on both devices is more than adequate, with the Arlo seeing slightly further, but the Guardian being slightly brighter. While both products are more polished and have a higher build quality than competing products from the likes of Foscam as an example, neither support if this then that or integrate with really any third-party devices, which may be disappointing depending on your integration needs. One concern I have with the Arlo is that the operating temperature low end is 14 degrees Celsius, and we'll see how the device operates outside during a New York winter. So, what's the bad voltage verdict? The Arlo is a solid system, and if you're looking for a completely wireless setup, it's really one of your only options. While the hub is giant, the battery life is surprisingly good for the feature set included, and the free cloud tier will be sufficient for most people. It's a device I'd be comfortable recommending. The Guardian is definitely better than similar devices from Foscam and the like, but at a higher price point to match. If you're looking for a camera with 100% local storage, it's a higher quality device and it will serve you well. That said, the D-Link is a little difficult to use, and they seriously have to get their act together when it comes to browser support. There's just no excuse these days.
I don't want to be mean here, right?
Yes, you're going to be.
It's totally going to be. I'll rephrase that because that's totally what I'm doing. I want to be mean. These two things sound bollocks. Or more accurately, I would say, both of them sound like they have interesting, useful features, but both of them have massive you can't use it and this is the reason things about them, right? If I say, okay,
what do you think those are? Because I don't think I would agree with that assessment.
I want a camera which sits in my house and ships the data off to a service of my choice. I don't want to have to plug a hard drive into it. I want to ship the data off to a service of my choice. I can't have that, right? I can either use their cloud or I can use local storage, and that's it, yes?
Yes.
Ta-da!
Currently, for both of those products, yes.
Defense rests.
Does a high-quality, non-garbage camera that allows you to do that exist?
That seems like a failure of the market. Right?
Well, yeah, but
if
we got to
that was
compare
something
it
most
to what's
people wanted,
available.
I think it would exist. I think you might want that, and you could set that up with either of these,
Well,
especially the D-Link.
bear with me.
But
I am all in favour of the idea that some people would say, I just want this thing to record it into my house, yeah? But for sheer just plug it in and then walk out the door convenience, you want the cloud thing. So you just plug it in and then do nothing, and then all your stuff
I think the D-Link
offsite.
is squarely aimed at people that don't trust the cloud and don't want their pictures anywhere near the cloud, and the cloud is not even an option with them.
Yeah, but
if you want to plug something in and go to the cloud, just buy a drop cam, right?
But this is my point. The Arlo, on the other hand, plug it in, you get all the convenience, but they keep your data and you can't put it anywhere else.
I thought you could keep it locally.
No, the Arlo has no local option at all.
No, the Arlo is. I wouldn't mind if the Arlo was cloud only. I mind that it's Arlo cloud only.
So I think with the Arlo especially, they have kept things ultra simple, and this is aimed at, and I'm not exaggerating here, any of our parents could install the Arlo in under 7 minutes. And it's because there aren't any options like that.
I take that challenge.
There is really no complexity. You plug the thing in, and it just works. which is why you need the extra hub, which annoys me. But from a simplicity installation perspective, it could not have been easier.
The kit, right? You buy the initial kit, which is $200, I think you said?
Correct.
Is that a single camera?
It's a single camera and the hub.
And then it charges you a tenner a month as well until the end of time?
No, unlike Dropcam or any of the other ones, if you have less than 5 cameras, it's free.
Oh, that's
They only start charging you at the
then.
6th camera.
The cloud service is free.
And then if you want 15 cameras, then it's $15 a month.
But it has 15 cameras.
Well, at that point, you're a business, and $15 a month is not a big deal.
Yeah, you're a business, or you're George Clooney or something like that.
I have to say,
I would assume that if Bruce Wayne wants to set these things up in Wayne Manor, he can afford to spend the $15 a month. Yes,
My
have 15
guess
rooms,
is Bruce Wayne's not using a D-Link or Arlo-based security system.
I would imagine.
He just hires people to look.
He's got a massive,
But
great
like I
big
said, the
penny
build
in a cave under his mansion. What do you want?
I have to say as well, regarding the cameras that upload to the cloud, having had 2 drop cams now for the last, year or so, I think it is, the bandwidth that these cameras suck up is ludicrous. And I have I have business class Comcast, so I have a pretty decent net connection. And we have to switch the cameras off often at night. So at night, typically, Erica will work out and watch Netflix, and I might watch Netflix downstairs, sat on the couch eating Cheetos. And if those cameras are on,
ladies and gentlemen, by the way,
it's real. If those cameras are both on, like the internet grinds right down to a halt. So the notion of having 5 cameras.
So that's one good thing about the Arlo, because my internet absolutely sucks. You would not believe the upload speeds that I get. I'm almost embarrassed to say. And the compression that they use and the way that they upload when it's only the motion detection parameters that you have set. With 3 cameras uploading, I can still watch Netflix. And like I said,
really, does it like multiplex does it like multiplex
the stream that it records is very compressed, and the quality's still pretty decent.
Wow, that's cool.
So you would think better than I would anticipate.
In a world with YouTube,
where the Dropcam I've heard is a bandwidth monster.
This sort of thing.
It's horrendous. I'm getting rid of my.
This ought to be a solved problem, right? At least partially. In a world with YouTube, you don't have to ship full-on 1080p, 60 frames a second, perfect quality video. You just want to see if the guy breaks into your house and steals a television.
Well, and the thing is, as well, is what I want. So, for example, if I have my drop cams on at night and it detects motion, I want it to basically, frankly, what I'd like it to do is to save the video locally, and then if it detects motion, is that time slice when motion was detected to then shove that up onto the cloud, not the whole lot, because I don't need to go and watch 7 hours of my living room doing nothing on the cloud.
And so the one thing with the Arlo is it only uploads the clips that are motion detection, or if you set a schedule. So you can say,
that's cool.
Don't record at night, or only record motion detection at night, or you can set a whole bunch of different parameters and timelines and stuff like that. But then you just get little segments. So when you go into your library, there'll be a bunch of 45-second or I think 45 seconds is what I set, clips from motion.
So the Arlo is basically, it does all that stuff. It handles the motion detection thing. You don't have to pay for the cloud storage. It's nicely controllable with the website and everything. The only reason you wouldn't want is if you want local storage, because you don't want to use the cloud at all.
Correct. So I think
you want to use your own cloud storage, right? Like, Yeah. If you don't want another company that is not you having all the video of the webcam that you put in your bathroom, then those devices are not for you. Got it.
Then you get a D-Link and it records to an SD card and it never leaves your house.
But
that's no good either.
It sucks by the sound of it.
The D-Link one sounds awful.
The app is not very good. But then again, I don't know if either of you have ever owned a Foscom camera. The app's better than that, because those are garbage.
Is it the D-Link one that you said doesn't work in a web browser on Linux?
No, and that they do deserve a bollocking for. And like I said, it's not just that the video stream doesn't work and they use ActiveX for video. Literally nothing works. You can't even see a list of cameras you own in Linux.
Oh my God.
They use ActiveX
It's
for
astounding
video?
that's even possible.
Well,
I didn't even know people still could use ActiveX.
No. They don't use ActiveX. I was just using it.
I'm like, I thought that died like 30 years ago.
I think it was called Uplayer or something on Mac, but like I said, I couldn't get it to work.
But I mean, the whole point of providing the web interface, normally these people go, oh, you have to use our mobile app, and then you find out there's a little cut-down web interface, and I'm quite used to using those on consumer electronics, right?
Yeah.
But the whole point of those is they're the stupid fallback solution for people who can't get the app to work. Making the stupid fallback website also not work completely defeats the point of the damn thing.
Right. And since HTML5 would have been the because this is a new product for them, so it's not like they have a 10-year-old existing infrastructure. The fact that they built something new and just didn't use HTML5,
how is this?
The thing is, as well as the thing is, as well as the app is really important. I'll give you an example of why I think the app is so important in this whole thing. Is one time I was in LA going to the X Prize office, and I was just going out to get some food, and Erica called me freaking out because an alarm had gone off in the house. And she thought it was the house alarm. She was upstairs,
right,
and she'd set the house alarm downstairs. So she thought someone was in the house, and she called me because she didn't have the app installed on her phone. She just called me and she said, "Can you check the cameras to see if there's anyone downstairs?"
Right.
And in that kind of situation, you want to look at that thing as quickly as possible. You don't want.
So this is actually the one thing
Yeah.
I don't like about either camera is that neither of them support if this and that. Because what I would like is my alarm and my fire alarms both do support it. So I'd like to say if my fire alarm is going off, take a picture of every camera and email it and MMS it to me immediately.
That would
I
be
can
nice.
just see it.
It is becoming
so cool.
I'm hoping that
rad.
if this and that comes to both of them, but I haven't seen anything concrete for either.
Yeah.
of them.
It is becoming alarmingly apparent that everyone who sells an Internet of Things device is not really interested in selling you devices. They're interested in selling you their ecosystem. And so there's no cooperation between them at all.
I think Philips just learned the hard way that they're going to have to interoperate, right? Because I don't know if you saw this. The Hue is a lighting system from Philips, and they just locked out all third-party bulbs that weren't Philips bulbs. And they got such a giant backlash that within 48 hours they reversed the policy and promised to not do it again.
Right, but what
So
first of all, good, hooray, consumer power. This is what we like to say. But I'd like to be. 5 years from now, they're all going to say, let's get together and form the Internet of Things Consortium and come up with one standard protocol and all talking. Just do it today, not in 2021.
Everything either speaks Z-Wave or Zigbee, and most hubs these days speak both. So there's very few things that can't at least talk to each other. The problem is they support varying levels, so some lights you can turn on or off, but you can't ask whether it's currently on or off and stuff like that.
Lights, maybe, but then why can't you just talk Zigbee to your camera? Rather than having to use their broken website, why doesn't it just connect to your existing hub and control it that way? This is the point I'm trying to make.
And the camera,
right?
I don't know, but like all my locks, the Nests, almost everything that considers itself an Internet of Things device speaks one of those two things. I don't think cameras consider themselves yet to be an Internet of Things device.
Is it a thing that's on the Internet?
Considers that. I think, well, in the case of D-Link, no, they decided it is not at all on the Internet.
It's not a thing.
In the case of the Arlo,
it's neither a thing nor on the Internet.
Yes, it would be nice and hopefully soon, but I don't know of any cameras that...
once these devices are all running FirefoxOS, I think it's going to be just fine. I think everything will work great.
You are a mean person, Lunduke, is what you are.
It does surprise
Very nice
me.
segue, sir.
Any manufacturer making a camera that can potentially talk to the internet that doesn't have support for IoT, basically, it just seems madness to me. Because I mean, that's the market that we're clearly the way the world is going. Everybody's going to have smart homes, so I just don't get it. But cool. Any final thoughts, Jeremy?
No, I think that covers it pretty well.
I think he left it all out on the field, so I think he's good.
Yeah.
You bought both of them. Would you buy both of them again?
I think that, as I kind of said in the review, they're both aimed at very specific use cases, and I think they're both of a high enough quality that were I in need of something in that use case, they're probably both best of breed.
Oh, really?
For what that's worth.
The Arlo
from the products that like I said, on the Arlo, there's really no other all wireless weatherproof device in that price range that I am aware of. So they really are competing with almost no one. In the D-Link, if you want local only, they're the highest quality option I've seen on the consumer side.
So one of the things which we face as an ongoing civilization is where all the power's coming from when the oil runs out, right? And we've heard a bunch of different proposals, but one of the ones that I think is most interesting is from a Japanese company called Shimizu Corporation. And their idea was, basically, you build a shitload of solar panels on the moon and then collect all the power that you need and then beam it back to Earth with microwaves.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I'm in.
Just in sheer kind of Star Trek levels of brilliance, I am all in favour of this as a policy. This is basically Kardashev level 1, right? We want this today. I want it. Make it happen.
Well, I think their target date was 2035, so you get
we had a little ways to wait. Yeah.
The interesting thing about it
maybe
is,
you guys maybe you guys can clarify. Maybe you can clarify this for me. I don't know much about microwaves apart from putting chicken in them so I can feed Jack. But parenting win. This is something you can do. You can basically take power and basically squirt it back to Earth.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. You just squirt it. It's you have a toothpaste tube and you just go, and it just shoots all the way down to Chicago.
Everything they have described. None of this is sci-fi stuff, right? No. Everything they have described is doable with technology today. No one's done half of it on the sort of scales that they're talking about. The reason they say 2035 is not because they go, well, we've got 20 years during which we have to invent half the bullshit we've made up. Not at all. Actually, you could start doing it today. There's a whole bunch of engineering challenges when you start saying, okay, we need a ring of solar panels which is 6,800 miles long, and we need to get it to the moon and build it from materials on the moon and station people permanently on the moon to, fix it when it goes wrong. None of these are
a little bit of a logistical challenge,
but there are logistical challenges and so on.
I wonder how much of this could be. I wonder how much of this could be deployed on the moon and then managed from Earth with occasional trips up to the moon from human beings to fix it. Because if we can build a rover that basically runs around the moon, it seems like they can do a lot.
Dude, don't go down this route. That's a total
they wanted
route.
It said the whole construction crew would be robotic.
Okay. See,
so maybe they would send 2 robotic crews up, one to build the solar panels and then one to fix the first set of robots.
This is absolutely the wrong way to go. They're missing a golden opportunity to have a freaking settlement on the moon. I don't care how unfeasible it is. I want to get all Pluto-Nashy, and I want to get up there with friggin' Eddie Murphy and be freaking out on the moon. It's time to be freaking out on the moon.
You have spent too much time
to this show.
Seriously, reading 1950s stories about about two-fisted space engineers out there hammering pitons into the side of Saturn,
as opposed to a three-fisted space engineer. How many fists do you think a space engineer should have? He should have 2 fists. If he's got 1 fist, we're not going to discriminate against him because we're not a bunch of jerks. If he lost a hand or something like that, but 3, that would be weird. So I don't understand the point you're trying to make. The point I'm making is that Eddie Murphy and me on the moon needs to happen.
What if it's just one very big fist, like a Hulk fist?
Okay, that's fine. See, that's totally fine.
Is it okay?
That's not unreasonable.
There's a special job for that guy, I'm sure.
By the way, they need to change the name of this thing from Lunar Ring to something else. Lunar Ring sounds like a contraceptive.
It doesn't sound, doesn't it? What worries me about this plan, this sounds like a brilliant idea. It's all doable with today's technology. It's it's all roughly doable with today's technology. It completely fixes the energy problems that we've got, and rather neatly, it ends up beaming it back to all sorts of places all over the Earth, which is what you want. You've seen. Remember Elon Musk basically proposed at one point that you just get the whole of Montana and cover it with solar panels, and that would be enough to cover the whole Earth, which it would, and provide enough power. But at some point, you've got to worry: what if someone in Iran says we'd like power, and you think, well, we own all the power here in America. Maybe we're not going to sell you any of it. Whereas this, by definition, beams back to everybody. So it's genuinely a thing which is doable and solves the energy crisis for everybody. And you can't.
I think it's funny that you're completely removing the geopolitical part of the equation out of this. It just magnanimously beams to every country all the energy they need.
No, that's the way it needs to work. That's the point.
There's one thing on Earth that works like that. Realistically, not ideally.
The sun works like that. Is the
YouTube.
Point, right?
The sun, not created by robots, created by humans.
Right, but the point is that it shines.
If someone's Mr. Burns-esque could block out the sun and then charge you for it, someone would have tried. Not technically possible.
This is the problem that Tesla ran into with his wireless energy concepts, where they were going to have like the floating hot air balloons and dirigibles, and they were going to use the wireless electricity to just spread the electricity everywhere. It's totally functional. It absolutely works. It's essentially kind of safe, and it would be wonderful. It would actually cut costs all over the place, but it's very difficult to actually charge for it because it's difficult to meter and measure and know who's using how much energy and how do you get all the return on the investment from it. And if we're just beaming the juice back and we're just saying, here you go, Earth, here's some free moon juice, and we send it all back,
who do you envision paying the astronomical initial costs for something like that? Well, ideally, I think it would be awesome, and technology is super cool. I don't.
Well, there are two important points there. The first one is it is literally astronomical. The cost, because astronomy. But more importantly,
how long have you been sitting on that one?
At least an hour.
Sitting there, saving that up for weeks. But more importantly, when I say this is a brilliant idea, what I mean is it was a brilliant idea when it was proposed in December 2013, and as far as I can tell, nothing has happened since then. Presumably because
I was
they
not able to find a
mob.
single article that wasn't from 2013.
So I grant the point that at the moment it is probably stymied on who's going to pay the $400 billion trillion jillion dollars it needs to set this up, and then go, here is all the electricity you need for free. People who didn't pay.
I mean, it's
like the ultimate example of a
such
free rider problem.
Well, it's not a free ride, but the Star Trek analogy kind of works here. It's that moving towards that utopian ideal of, all right, let's figure out, is electricity a human right or a human need, or is that something that's going to help all of us as a people of a human race move forward? Then we should find a way to do it. Are the energy companies going to be mega pissed off? Yep. Are they going to try and lobby every single politician in every country around the world to stop it? Hell yeah. They're going to put every dime they have into stopping it to the verge of going bankrupt, because if they fail, they're out of business anyway. So, I mean, that is a problem, and that's a logistical problem to overcome. But Stuart's right. This is where we should be going. If we're smart humans and we care about the human race as, like, people, then we obviously want to go down this route. It would help. Yeah. It would help all other industries.
Maybe this is Japan predicting that by 2035 people won't be dicks.
Well,
that's a good prediction.
I mean, not wishing to quote Jono's ex-boss too much, but one way you solve this problem of artificial scarcity is by complete abundance. You just make sure that everyone has more than enough electricity, more than they'll ever need. And then there's no need to jealously guard the bit of resource that you've got. This is like the move from IPv4 to IPv6. They went, okay, well, we ran out. That's not happening again. So now we're going to make sure that every atom in the universe can have 1 trillion IP addresses, and then you never have to think, oh, but what happens if someone owns too big a chunk and then won't parcel it back out? Super abundance, right? And this is in theory the same thing. We can get more than enough power from doing this to do everything we can currently think of.
Did you just say super abundance?
I did.
That was awesome.
I just want to make sure that we dwell on that for a second.
Quite synergistic.
Wow.
Right, you see, I am the
sounds like
you
could immediately end a war, because if, Pyongyang starts getting crazy, you just shut all of their electricity off.
But you can't shut off the electricity off because it's beamed to them from the moon. That's the point.
Well, no, you shut off just their beam.
I feel like we may be not understanding the intricacies of beaming from the moon.
We're not
there's
getting
so many hilarious technical things I wanted to say, but then it's less fun.
I'm not sure that this electricity is going to just fall down like rain, and then you basically.
Here's the thing. I have now read about this, and they are the way it's literally microwaves, right? The Earth's atmosphere is pretty much transparent to microwaves, and they swear blind that it's actually really low as a thing, but it shouldn't harm anybody. But it does concern me that what happens is we build this thing, someone pulls the big red lever, we fantastically solve the energy crisis, we then spend 60 years bathing the Earth in constant microwave radiation beamed off of the lunar ring, and then the human race dies out because everyone's infertile, right? This concerns me.
Sounds like a concern.
Yeah, that's a legit concern.
And these guys go, no, that's not going to happen. It's not going to be a problem. You only get to be wrong about this kind of thing once, and then everyone's dead. So...
On that gleeful note, I guess we'll stay tuned.
Let's revisit this in like 2035 or so.
On the note of solar, because it's I don't want to say stupidity, but some people are hilarious sometimes. Did you see there's a town in North Carolina, and this really happened 2 days ago. The city council declined to move to solar power over fears that it would, and this is a direct quote, suck up all the energy from the sun.
I did see that.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
So, while you're wondering why we don't have solar panels on the moon, I would just like to end with that quote right there.
On the other hand,
if it's on the moon, though, it wouldn't suck up all the energy from our sun. It would suck up all the energy from the moon's sun. So that would probably be fun.
There's people sitting around going, but what if they're right? You turn it on and the sun suddenly goes black like an Arthur C. Clarke book. It'd be terrible.
The argument's going to be you can't put solar panels on the moon because the cheese that the moon is made out of is not going to be able to support the weight of the sun.
Or the cheese might melt. You don't want it to melt. That's not.
It's all the moon pigeons, man. They're just going to take poops all over the solar panels.
Moon pigeons.
That's actually a real thing.
I think it's really time to end this segment.
Did you know? Is it called moon pigeons? Someone look that up. NASA has an actual official term because they've seen it a couple of times now. These little blurbs going by, and they have lots of video of it from NASA missions. These little blurbs going by that they can't quite make out what they are, but they seem to like move a little bit, like something flying around, and like something really small, and they can't quite figure it out. It doesn't seem like it's like just a rock hurling by, so they just dubbed them. I think it's moon pigeons. But yeah, that's like a real thing.
I got $100 saying they're not pigeons, but they are called moon pigeons.
My guess is they're probably at most a distant relative. You know what I'm saying?
It's not just some nerd at NASA who sneezed on the screen or something like that. No. All right.
I'm going to call boogers moon pigeons from now on.
This is our penultimate show for the year, and unlike some detractors, we've actually stuck it out for every year. We've not pod faded. Poor guy. Says one time pod fading, and
I have not heard pod fading in a while. No.
Yeah. So anyway,
because everybody said it as pod faded.
So meta. So this has been an interesting year for technology. A lot of stuff has gone down. We've seen the consistent rise of hacktivism. We've seen an all-out games console war where the PlayStation 4 seems to be winning. We've seen a number of different things happening in the open source world. So what do you guys think has been the most memorable or interesting or thought-provoking things that have happened over the last year? Don't all speak at once, by the way. Langridge, you start.
Well, you see, the thing I think is interesting is that this year has cemented for me the idea that revolutionary stuff doesn't happen anymore, really. Every time something comes out, if you were to say, okay, here is if we do the prediction show for our first show of 2016, and I say, here's my prediction for the year, a whole bunch of potentially revolutionary technologies will come out, and most of them won't work properly, and they'll be okay but not brilliant, and there'll be a bunch of pointless wars, between these different technologies. I'd be stone cold dead on correct this year and every year. It's quite disillusioning, I think.
Well, it's been like that for years, though, hasn't it?
Which is my point.
Yeah, but revolutions can succeed. I mean, look at Linux.
30-year-old
Look at the technology that brought
which
us all
is
together.
the Revolution OS.
That's what I've heard.
Nicely done.
It is. But, I mean, if you look at, you think, okay, steam machines, they were coming out. They did, but whatever. The next generation consoles
they made it this year, though. They actually made it this year, which was kind of in doubt as the year was slowly edging to a close, and they kind of sneaked in under the radar there.
And we've seen, as Jono said, the new console generation. But is anyone looking at the new games and going, "Oh my God, these are so much better than the last ones. I can't believe I ever played Battlefield 3. What a waste of my time that was by comparison." No.
Right. I think I don't know. I disagree. I'm not by any stretch a gaming expert, but it seems like gaming is consistently getting better and better and better. I mean, just look at the reviews of Fallout 4 as an example. I mean, it's been widely acclaimed as an incredible game that's better than any of the previous ones. So.
But I think this is a washing powder thing. No one puts out a new washing powder and goes, it's not. It's basically the same as the last one, but don't worry because that's all you needed anyway. It cleans better than the last thing. And you think, but they've been saying that every time a new brand comes out for 40 years. How much better can it possibly get at this point?
Think about how dirty your parents' clothes were 40 years ago, and just be happy you live in the great year that is 2015. Can't you just be happy?
That is true.
400 years ago, 1986, not that bad.
Who peed in your cornflakes this morning?
Who took the jam out of your donut today?
Someone did take the jam out of my donut.
Oh, man. You know what? I prefer donuts without jam so much. It's fine. It's fine. Take the jam out.
But that's my thought, that there's... Everything that comes out, I get excited, and then everything's a bit of a damp squib. But I don't know whether just because I've got old and cynical...
So I thought about this for 3 solid minutes before we started recording, and I think what was interesting to me is one of the things that impressed me the most this year, in retrospect, was a highly evolutionary thing, and that is Android, right? Marshmallow's out now. I have a Nexus 6P. By far the best version of Android that has ever existed by a massive amount, I think. The permission system finally doesn't suck. The battery lasts for 2 days, which finally a phone that you don't have to charge overnight. The smartwatch I have now, the Moto 2, that runs Android Wear, I really like way more than I thought that I would. So from an evolutionary, if I had to pick one evolutionary thing, it would definitely be Android. And I think they've hit that spot where now it's generally useful and not enraging.
It's funny. I had the exact same thought. I got one of the Google Pixel Cs in the mail yesterday, and I pull it up, and it's basically a tablet, but it's also kind of a laptop. And I'm like, well, let's use this as a laptop, and it is astoundingly functional with the latest versions. And I was thinking back on it, and do you guys remember when Android first shipped on that T-Mobile Android 1 with the flip-out keyboard? And it was
the G1.
The G1, that's right. It was monumentally slow, almost to the point where it took like forever just to slide out that little drawer to pull out some applications and actually launch things. Oh. And where we're at now, it is a very significant improvement. It's not revolutionary. It's not groundbreaking, but it just keeps getting better. And I like that. Looking over the year, there's a lot of that going on. I mean, even on the closed sourcey side of thing that we don't care about quite as much. I mean, Windows 10 shipped this year, and it wasn't quite as momentous of an event as, say, when Windows 95 launched and Rolling Stone took the stage to start singing songs about it, but it was still a pretty big deal. And was it better than things past? Probably. I don't really know. Some people seem to think so. So lots of evolutionary stuff, and lots of future looking stuff. The self-driving cars got talked about a lot this year, and companies were working on it and demonstrating it and actually having them out there getting traffic tickets, and things were happening this year that were legitimately cool. Maybe they're not shipping a Tesla with complete self-driving mode yet. Maybe Google doesn't have the self-driving car I can buy from a Nissan dealership yet, but it seems like evolutionarily they're moving towards that route. And I guess that's good. I would love to see something just crazy, just come in from left field and rock out. I would love to see, say, a non-Android
I think part of that is the baseline is so high now that to be that revolutionary and keep it a secret is going to be near impossible.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something revolutionary like, I don't know, put 6,800 miles worth of solar panels on the moon, which would be a good move.
That would be revolutionary. Yeah. I think revolutionary. We could also look at it from the point of view of people really like the market really being shaken up. You know, like a company coming in, like let's say Canonical had just rocked out with the Ubuntu phone this year, right? And they'd come in with a couple of handsets in North America as well as Europe and a few other markets. And the sales, even if they didn't take over 80% of the market, they jumped into the single or even double digit market share. That would blow everyone's mind. It would be revolutionary in that it would shake up the market. It would shake up the players. And it didn't really happen this year. It was just the established players iterated on things and got a little better. And
I heard that's the premise of the next season of Man in the High Castle.
The thing that excites me about
it's a good show.
The thing that I thought was really cool about this year was
it the massive advance of VR which you predicted for last year and didn't happen?
Oh, we're going to get into that next episode.
Hold on.
Don't jump the gun there.
Hold your horses.
Not fair. Hold your horses. Not fair. Because I've been waiting to just destroy Jono over his last year's predictions, and I've been holding back, so let's not get into it.
Jono didn't predict that. That's not the prediction we're going to review. He didn't predict that happened in 2015. He predicted that would happen in 2014 in the previous
I know, and you're ruining everything I'm planning to destroy on Jono right now, so we need to stop talking about next week's episode.
Mr. Bacon, what's your favorite thing of 2015 here?
Turned into the Republican debate for a second. I think we should ban all gingers from entry to the Bad Voltage recording. So I think this was a great year for open source. I mean, just look at what happened with. I mean, Microsoft have open sourced a ton of stuff. They've got a very active community on GitHub. I mean, Visual Studio Code, which is running on Electron, which is an open source project. We've seen the actual open sourcing of Swift. Mm-hmm. I think we've seen the other thing which I thought was cool this year was I think the evolution of the various desktops on Linux has really grown. Like GNOME 3 is looking great. I think what the Elementary guys are doing is looking fantastic as well. We've seen things like that. What's that new one? Solus. Yeah, which is looking good. I just think that it felt like this was a healthy year for open source and open source communities.
Yeah, it did.
I think this is...
It does feel... I mean, Bryan and I were having a discussion with various people yesterday and talking about the need for compromise in open source, all this kind of thing. And I found myself with all the things where I used to have to say, no, I'm prepared to compromise on this because I like open source or whatever. I hardly have to anymore. There's very little that now I can't do. I don't find myself thinking this is now something I'm not allowed to have. There are a few that I don't get WhatsApp. But there's hardly anything now which is even difficult. I mean, what this actually means, if you take the other side of the coin, is that we finally caught up to where everyone else was 15 years ago. But nonetheless, we have caught up, and this is a good thing, right?
Well, I'd actually go a step further. I'd say that not only is open source caught up, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about Linux specifically, but open source is not only caught up, but open source is overtaken, and it's become the way in which the world is working. I think the fact that we have Apple and Microsoft who are building significant open source projects is just a huge seed change in open source as a principle, which is incredible. I mean, the thing that bothers me, and I tweeted about this yesterday, I think it was, is that some people still treat companies like Microsoft as if they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And while they haven't changed 100%, it takes time for these things to happen.
I would say...
I think that's a segment in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, any individual given Microsoft business unit probably either has changed 100% or has changed 0%. So Microsoft as a whole, you can say, well, they haven't changed, but pretty much everyone there has either gone, no, this is actually the way to work, or they've gone, we're not interested in working that way at all, and that's it.
Yeah.
That is a whole other segment.
Yeah, we should actually do that as a segment. Someone write that down.
It actually would be an interesting one. I hope someone's taking notes, because we've got like 8 future segment ideas we've already talked about during the show.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, I've taken no notes.
Perhaps
notes taken on my end, not.
Perhaps someone on the forum could listen to this segment and write down all the things in it.
Yes, please, do that.
It's a beautiful idea.
Well, like I said, I think the Android stuff, I think the amount of cool stuff that has happened in space this year has been, for the first time in a while, really cool. You had the flowing water on Mars. You had the closest flyby at Pluto. Those pictures from New Horizon was just awesome. And I think that's an area that we had started to forget in the interim. When we were kids, everyone loved the space launches and the Challenger.
That's
was
exactly
an epic
what I was,
event for all of us. And
yeah, just about to say.
I hope that comes back.
There's been a kind of a 20-year downtime during which basically not much space happened at all. And now suddenly space appears to be the cool thing again.
Yeah.
Not that we've sent
which I personally like
to the moon since, you know. But
yeah.
But I don't know, is there...
That we know of...
Is there actually a real uprising, a real groundswell in how much we're doing in space? Oh, excuse the mixed metaphor.
Superabundance, groundswell, and space pigeons.
Moon pigeons. But
I think there is for the first time in at least a decade that I can remember, NASA's funding is actually going to go up next year from the look of it, not down. You have SpaceX doing some really cool stuff with Falcon. You have Bezos, obviously, just had that huge landing. So I think for the first time in years, we're seeing actual progress in a way that 5 years ago it was like, we don't go to space anymore. If we want to send someone to ISS, we have to ask the Russians to do it.
Right.
And now I think that's going to be changing.
Did we not launch people, including Tim Peake, to the ISS yesterday from Baikonur, which is in Russia?
Yeah.
For now, the only way we can get there is through Russia. We don't have the capability anymore to even get there on our own. But I think, like I said, you're going to see that change now.
Ah, right. So you think that it's
SpaceX doing it or
right?
Very Amazon
galactic.
Space, whatever it is. Right.
Get Richard Branson out there rocking his thing.
So space is cool. I think another thing that's cool is we finally got a tech show that didn't suck in Mr. Robot. That was a long time coming, I think.
That was nice.
Yeah. So that was nice.
That's a great show.
It is. I'm looking forward to season 2.
I marathoned it on a plane on my trip to India, on my flights there and back, and it's really. I tell you what, though, it's quite dark.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very dark show.
An underestimate. That bloke Elliot is nuts. He's genuinely mad. That guy.
For those listeners, if you're into tech and you have not seen Mr. Robot, it's on USA.
It's worth it.
You can watch it in the app. It's definitely.
It's got Christian Slater in it, who's actually very cool.
Yeah, he is. Between underrated actor.
Between Christian Slater being an archer and that, he is super underrated.
Right?
Yeah.
And Gleaming the Cube? Yeah. Come on.
And Heavens. And Broken Arrow. Christian Slater's cool.
Also Gleaming the Cube.
Trying to think. Although now that I think about it,
I think it's a skateboarding movie from like 92.
Gleaming the
Something
Cube?
like that.
I've never heard of it.
It's an old one.
I think the tech kind of ridiculous moment for me was the fact that Verizon bought AOL. Because it's like AOL weird. Time Warner all over again, right? What was it, 2000, AOL purchased Time Warner, and then which is considered a disaster. And then they spun them out, and now Verizon bought them.
Wow.
So that's one of those weird moments.
I didn't even know that Verizon bought AOL.
Here is something which is more illustrative of AOL's fall from grace than anyone else I can think of. They got bought by Verizon and no one even noticed. Do you think? Well, I read a thing right? somewhere saying that back in the 90s or the early 2000s, there were people who won competitions to have dial-up for life provided from AOL. So do you think they've still got a modem somewhere? Because that guy could just go, I'm allowed this, right? You have to provide it.
They still make something insane like $20 million in revenue a month on dial-up.
Get off.
What?
It's big.
Tens of millions of dollars a month on dial-up. I
can believe it. I mean, well, there's going to be
dial-up
huge parts of rural America.
Right. Where I think that
with people who don't know anything about the internet, they went through the nightmare of getting the internet installed on their 486 DX266, however many years ago, and they haven't changed it. They're still connecting through like mosaics.
Seriously,
still using NCSA and loving it.
Rural America's that bad. Can't you just fix this stuff or something? For goodness' sake!
And it's not just AOL. Dial-up is still really prevalent everywhere. Like I swear to God, like half of like the ATM machines all over the place, all the cash machines still use like a dial-up modem and an analog phone line to dial up into the bank to a big giant bank of, I assume, 14.4 US Robotics external modems. That's how I pictured in my head.
V-Fast
it's ridiculous.
Modems. God, I love the fact they call it V-Fast.
Yeah, V-Fast.
It's like you've got V32 and then V40 or whatever, and then V-Fast.
V-Fast.
There's just nowhere you can go after that, is there?
There really isn't. So this honestly, it was kind of a good year in a lot of ways. I like the space stuff was cool. There was iterative technology. I can't believe I used that word. It was evolutionary. Sorry, stop. There was existing technology that got a little bit better. That was good.
We'll pass out the buzzword bingo cards later.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
So turning it around a little bit, does anyone have a least favorite moment in tech for the year?
I do. I absolutely
do too. So what's yours, Brian?
Mine is just a bummer, and we already kind of touched on this a little bit. It's the mobile operating systems. I had really high hopes going into the year for like 3 different interesting open source mobile operating systems that just did not go anywhere. They didn't really ship what they said they were going to ship. They didn't ship in markets that, anyone I know can buy it in. Not everyone, but most. And I was really bummed out that there was no action there. That was what did it for me. That was the bummer. The Yollas, the FirefoxOSs, the Ubuntu touches, I had such high hopes, and it just crushed my small childlike soul. Oh. That's the moment for me.
What about you, Jeremy?
The ubiquity of those stupid hoverboards drives me bananas because they are not in any way, for any definition of the word, hovering, right? We had October 21st, 2015 was when the hoverboard was supposed to come. Back to the Future told us this very explicitly, and now everyone's got a quote-unquote hoverboard that has 2 wheels touching the ground. They're not hoverboards. Stop calling them hoverboards. You're driving me crazy.
They are rollerblade skateboards.
Yes.
Yeah,
drives me nuts.
Do you have any? Well, you've just shared the entire year.
Well, no. The entire year fails to wow me, but that's not actually disappointing. That's just normal. The thing that I found most disappointing this year has been, on a slightly more serious note, the UK government's policy on tech and encryption, because that's that is disappointing. Massive bubble pop. You look at it and think, well, I have to live here, and how can you think like this?
Can I point something out? You don't have to live there any more than I have to live in Oregon. I mean, I don't have to. There's an awful lot of countries out there that love gingers, so you have places you can go, man. You've got friends.
Move to a proper country like California.
Really? Seriously? That's the case you're going to make?
Nothing ever goes wrong there.
I might move to Germany. I'm not moving to America. Mr. Bacon.
Yeah. So what about you, John?
Lay it on us, man.
There's a couple of I think minor disappointments, but there's nothing that really stands out to me. I mean, I'd share Brian's view on the mobile thing. I'm disappointed that it hasn't had more of an impact than I think we would have liked. And the continual fight for people to have digital rights is often a worry as well. But I don't feel like this year was all that different in terms of disappointments than last year. I think there was way more cool stuff happening this year than last year. Right. But disappointment. Maybe just I'm numb to it So
your vision of 2015 and Stuart's are almost polar opposites. It's like 2015, not impressed again. 2015, everything was pretty good.
I'm pretty happy with
2015. Not the worst, not the best, just what we're stuck with.
But we got pictures of Pluto, so there's that.
So we've established that Jeremy not only, goes and serves his country and everything and does jury duty, but then gets 2 weeks during which there is a show and doesn't even listen to it.
I didn't mean to, actually. I just didn't actually do so.
I can't believe that you waited an entire show to make that point, Mac.
So the last show you missed, did you listen to it the next day?
I have to listen to the show the next day in order to write the show notes, so yes.
Oh, fair.
No, so you listen to it, but for purely mechanical reasons.
No, I would listen to it anyway. Do you listen to other podcasts?
No.
People here?
No, not really. Never. No, my God.
None of you do at all?
They're terrible.
Fair enough.
Podcasts as a medium just really is not entertaining. I try to listen to as few podcasts as possible. Maybe once in a blue moon if someone gets like a really good interview, but like we're talking like once a quarter.
I listen to audiobooks mainly. So, although now I'm traveling into San Francisco to work at the GitHub office, I have more time for listening to stuff. So I think I'm actually going to start listening to some podcasts. I used to listen to the Bill Burr podcast, which is really good.
I just say it's something I would actually like to do more of. I just never actually do so.
And I can't work and listen to a podcast. It's just
no, you really can't.
Not compatible.
No, totally agree.
We should, speaking of amazing podcasts, potentially in live settings.
Oh, how deft a segue! Goodness,
Boom. He nailed it.
You like that? 22nd of January 2016, which is a Friday, is Bad Voltage Live, and it's going to be happening in Pasadena, California. We're going to be at the Southern California Linux Expo, which is, as I'm sure anyone who's listened to this show before, it's absolutely brilliant.
Awesome.
We've mentioned this multiple times.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
It is.
So a couple of things to note here, I think is important, is on the Thursday and the Friday, the 21st and the 22nd of January, there's going to be a bunch of events happening before the main scale event. So, for example, I'm going to be at the Ubuntu Summit. Big Ubuntu event's going to be happening.
Right?
We're both speaking.
Stuart's going to be speaking there as well.
Brian is on stage.
Hell yeah. I'm the nighttime entertainment on Thursday. So on the 21st, the day before Bad Voltage Live. So if you're coming down to scale, the big thing is you don't want to just get there for the weekend. You want to be there from Thursday onward because there are a ton of really good speakers Thursday and Friday, a ton of them. Yeah. And you don't want to miss any of it.
At least get there on Friday.
or Thursday by, say, mid-afternoon. Thursday mid-afternoon
if
onward,
you're really pushed, I would say it's perfectly reasonable to turn up on Thursday, see the Thursday and Friday stuff, and then go home Saturday morning, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
No, we don't want to say that. You should go to the whole of scale, absolutely, because there's
a bunch of good stuff happening. So you got the main event that's on the Saturday and the Sunday, and scale is brilliant. And then you got the other stuff that's happening beforehand, including Brian and UbuCon and stuff like that. We're going to be going on probably about 7:00, or doors are going to open at 7:00.
Yeah.
On the Friday, it's completely free to get in. There's going to be some beer. There's going to be some prizes. It's going to be great. We've been mapping out the show. It's going to be awesome. So come and join us. It's going to be a great time.
It's going to be great. And if just to set your guys' expectations here, this is not some Linux conference where the four of us are going to be in some little tiny small room or something like that. We're literally looking at being in a space, a big banquet hall type huge ballroomy space with less than, but getting close to 1,000 people jammed into there, rocking out to Bad Voltage Live. It is going to be insane.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, so please show up.
The doom is setting in already.
Yeah, do not make the room empty. Please come.
So the other thing as well, it would be remiss if we didn't thank our incredible sponsors. Yes. Obviously, the Southern California Linux Expo, who are providing the venue and the AV and all that good stuff. Good friends of the show. But then also Linode have sponsored the show. They're flying us out there. They're paying for the production of the show as well. So thank you to Linode for supporting us. It's going to be a great time.
We very much appreciate it. Thank you, Linode.
Is that it? Have we got anything else to talk about? I mean, get to the forum, community.badvoltage.org.
I hope not. I hope that's all we have to talk about, because
This is a long show.
This was actually quite a long show.
Yeah, thank you for hanging in there, people. Or possibly not, if you're not listening to this bit. All right. Laters.